Our first item on our agenda, which is not that. I was like, I appreciate that, but I'm pretty sure it is the audit.
If you want me to do this one, we'll go through it real quick.
Yeah, I looked up, I was like, no, that's not right. Thank you, Mark, for doing this to discuss our audit committee.
So, as you know, the board has an external audit committee that was set up to help select external auditors. They also review the external audit prior to bringing to the Board of Education. The policy calls for 6 members nominated by the Board of Education and 1 member nominated by the Superintendent, along with non-voting members. Tonight, we're bringing an additional member to be added to the audit committee, nominated by Mr. Sutton. The individual's name is Faith Bynum. I will turn it over to Mr. Sutton. I'll say she is a CPA and an MBA, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Sutton if he wants to speak a little bit about it.
She's a CPA, MBA. She worked with the Community Development Initiative in Dover. She was the controller there for a number of years. It's a small nonprofit organization that focuses on community development. Left there and started her own firm and is now grown to about, I think, 8 individuals at her firm. So local businesswoman, small business owner, and very interested in working with us, so looking forward to having her.
The committee consists of ex-CPAs, CPAs, financial planners, attorneys, and so she follows in the mold with what the other positions are. So we're bringing it to you tonight for a thumbs up if you approve. It's on the board agenda as a consent item.
Any questions, comments?
I would just love to support the nomination. It's been we need a full audit committee, and this committee serves a very important purpose in being able to help us translate between the staff and the board some of the work of the annual audit. And it's been very helpful to have folks who truly can read that language quite fluently. And, so I appreciate Mr. Sutton bringing forward the nomination. Look forward to its approval tonight.
Yes, this is a vacant. This is not replacing. This is a vacancy.
I think you did start with that. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
So we have the laptop, so you can find more information on it at faithbound.com.
All right, good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now for the PowerPoint. You have a packet, hard copy in front of you, everyone, as well as the PowerPoint assembly.
We are bringing draft 1 of the 2019-2020 enrollment plan. I want to say thank you. We started this process off in January, and it has been an eye-opening experience in the sense that the more we heard from the public, the more we were able to help draft a plan that we think helps the district, but also uses feedback from the public to help meet what the public wants and what the district needs in order to be successful as a school district. So thank you for starting that process. And I think we're looking to find better ways to improve that process starting next year as well. So
every year it's an improvement. That's all. Yeah.
So I think moving forward, we're looking forward to doing more with the public on this. This is not easy. I think in the last week I've got a lot more gray hair and put on a couple extra pounds because I'm a stress eater. But I'm excited to put this forward because I think this is a vital part of what the district needs, unfortunately. We have high growth, and we'll address a lot of that today, but we feel like we were able to accomplish some of the goals that the board had set out for us to try to accomplish, and we feel pretty strong about what we have to offer here, so we'll get into it.
I think I'll say maybe we'll set a ground rule that you are delivering the message to us. We are not to shoot the messenger because this is always difficult. We have lots of feedback. We're trying to balance what you've heard, what we've heard, and what we know the district needs, to your point. So that's my ground rule for today, which you always say I don't have to apologize, but I always feel like it's coming straight at you. So
no, it's okay. I can take it.
That's why you gained the extra pounds. That's right. Bounce it off.
But I mean, I feel like those conversations are healthy, though, because we all have the same goal in mind, and that's what's best for all kids. So, and just like our superintendent says, every child every day, or every student every day, it's important to our office as well. And though we don't work directly with children, we do affect what happens at schools every day.
Absolutely.
So it's important.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, so here's the outline for today. We're going to talk about growth in the 7-year plan. Policy 4150, which is the driver of what the student assignment plan is. We have 4 new schools opening for 1920. And if I say next year, please know that I'm in next year. We're in 1920 already in my mindset. I'm sorry. Operational efficiency. We have some overcrowded and underutilized schools we would like to look at addressing. We have grandfathering rules, which are yearly part of this plan, which we can look at addressing. And then we'll end with the timeline, the enrollment plan timeline, and how we're going to collect feedback. And then we have the addendum at the end. All right, I'm just going to let this slide sink in for a second. The numbers here are interesting. So we've got growth for the last 6 years where we've totaled 13,500 students. That forecasted growth is expected to exceed that for the next 6 years by about 1,000 students. And then the 10-year growth is well beyond that, 24,600. And I think the difficult part about this is that it's not spread out evenly across the district. It's in high concentrated areas, and so that's what makes student assignment and the enrollment plan much more difficult because you're dealing with high concentrated areas of growth, specifically in the area that we're going to be talking about this year. So the 7-year plan, some of the feedback we had gotten from families when we were in on the road show, like I called it, the BAC road show, was parents wanted to know more about what schools were going to be opening and where so that they can better prepare for that. And so this slide here is what we used to show, and I'm going to go back to that in a second. I always felt like it made sense to people, but it obviously didn't, so I'm going to give a different narrative here. So we have 4 new schools opening in 1920, and we're going to talk more in depth about those. But looking out ahead, so in 2021, we're going to be opening 1 new school, an elementary school in the Fuquay Marina area. So everyone in the Fuquay Marina area know that starting in January, February, we're going to start to reach out to you to start get feedback for the 2021 plan. In 2021-22, we're opening 2 new schools, one in the Creedmoor 540 area and one high school in the Fuquay area. In 22-23, we have 1 elementary school opening up in the Apex Friendship area. 2023, we have 1 elementary. It's in the Holly Springs Fuquay Garner area. It's kind of like that triangle there. And then 2024-25, we have 9 additional schools opening. I don't need to explain what all of those are so far out. So this is what it looks like in that chart. So we have 4 new schools opening. Actually, one of our schools is built already and it's been serving as a swing space for the last 2 years. That's Green Level High School. We have 1 middle school, Alston Ridge Middle School. And then 2 elementaries, Parkside Elementary and Southeast Raleigh Elementary. And again, looking ahead, someday, there it is. This is the school that we're going to be opening up the next time we speak about this in E35 in 2021. And then the elementary and high school there in 21, and then 22, that's the Apex Friendship Area School. All right. You can see that we also have some other schools that are serving as a swing space. We have Stow and York, which will swing out to Barton Pond Elementary for 2 years, each serving 1 year at the school. And then Fuquay-Varina High School will be at Willow Spring High School for 2 years before their renovation is complete. So policy 4150. Policy 4150 is the driver of what we do in student assignment with our enrollment plans. I highlighted student achievement because I've heard from board members in several meetings throughout the last 8 months how important student achievement is, and that it should always be one of the main drivers in what we do as a district. Operational efficiency is also another important one when we're talking about an enrollment plan because of our high growth, we have overcrowded schools, and so we need to address that overcrowding in schools because overcrowded schools are not healthy for children, nor are underutilized schools. And then we have stability and proximity. So those are the 4 pillars. They're never weighted in a certain order all the time. We look at the scenario as a whole. In the BAC meetings, I showed abstract views of what we would be looking at. And so we try to determine what's the best way to solve that dilemma. If we have overcrowded schools, we need to look at operational efficiency as being a higher priority for that particular area, and so forth. So this is a county map, and the highlighted areas there are areas where we're proposing base attendance area changes for the elementary school. And these are the schools listed where we have base attendance areas impacted. You can see these areas are very small on a large county map. And these are the middle schools where we're proposing a base attendance area change. And then here's the high school. So Southeast Raleigh Elementary is going to be the first school that we're going to talk about. Southeast Raleigh Elementary is opening as a traditional calendar elementary school. It has a capacity of 426. Since it's a traditional calendar school, we're offering a year-round application school of Timber Drive Elementary for these families. And the impacted schools, the schools that will have students being reassigned from their school to the new school, are Harris Creek and Rogers Lane Elementary. And here, this chart here tells you the current status of those particular schools. And I'm going to go through every slide will have, well, every school will have a slide like this. And then we will have maps of before and after, and then we will have a before and after data table that will show you the end result of these proposed moves. So there on the left-hand side, you have the names of the schools, the capacity. This is the brick and mortar capacity. This is the capacity with trailers. This is the calendar type. So for Harris Creek, it's a Y because it's a multi-track year-round school. Rogers Lane is a T for the traditional calendar. The base percent. This is the base percentage, the percentage of the base students that actually attend the base school. In 17-18, you have the ADM. This is the average daily membership. This is what was reported to DPI in month 2 of the 17-18 school year. This is the utilization. This is the crowding without trailers here, and then the crowding with trailers. And you can see both of these schools are overcrowded. So the map on the left is the current assignment areas. The map on the right is the proposed, the yellow being the new school base attendance area. So you can see here, the school in green, that's Harris Creek Elementary. Their base attendance area is down here and up here. You have Rogers Lane right here in the orange. Now, Fuller is located on this map only because the new school, Southeast Raleigh Elementary, is located within the base attendance area of Fuller. However, there's no students that are affected because it's the old flea market property. There are no students on that property. So here in yellow, you can see the proposed base attendance area. The outline in purple is an application area for Southeast Raleigh Elementary. So that means the students who live within that application area, they will only be able to apply to Southeast Raleigh. And it's considered a school promise is how we will have it labeled. So before we get into the data tables, I wanted to just explain some information. So we have 3 different ways that we calculate proficiency. We have residential, base, and non-base students. So residential shows the students who live within the base attendance area, and that's their proficiency. The base is the proficiency of the students who live in the base and attend the base school. And then non-base are the students who are assigned there, whether through magnet or transfer, etc. The way that we calculate student proficiency is we take the reading and English scores for grades 3 through 10, and proficiency is marked as scoring a 3 or higher on the test. Okay. So this is the before and after when you look at the data tables. The top section here shows the information before the proposed move, and then the bottom shows the after. So here you have, again, the capacity with trailers. This is the projected utilization for 1920. Projected utilization with trailers for 1920. Projecting out to 21-22 with and without trailers. And then the academic proficiency. So this is the proficiency of all of the residents. This is the proficiency of the base that attend the base school, the non-base, the aggregate. The aggregate is the compilation of those 3 scores. And then the actual may be a little bit different because the aggregate goes by the students that were geocoded back in October. Okay? The actual is the reported test scores that happen in May. So you may have some students that were not there in the fall that are now there in the spring who actually took the test. So you may have a slight difference, but nothing major. Okay? Did you need another couple minutes to review this slide, or?
And it's fair to say that the low utilization for the Southeast Raleigh Elementary School for the first couple of years is because we opened it without all grades.
We will be opening it K through 5. We also have housing that's going to be built on site, so we didn't want to overfill the school with the base attendance area because there will be housing coming.
On Southeast Raleigh, you mentioned application area. So is that going to be, are there going to be applicants that first year, or is that going to be in subsequent years?
We will take applicants the first year. We will be hesitant about how many we assign because we're waiting to find out when the actual on-site housing will be finished. But we will work with Southeast Raleigh Promise to be abreast of what they're going to be expecting when the housing will be done.
This is maybe more of an academic question, but what percent utilization do we need to have the full contingent of staff? I mean, we're going to do the best we can, obviously, but the 60% utilization is not going to have enough population to warrant as many staff unless we give additional staff. So we're sort of the break point for utilization versus appropriate staffing.
So generally speaking, whatever number of students you have, you'll receive the number of teaching positions for those students. When you're looking at other support staff, counselors or administrators, paraprofessional type staff that may not be driven by the number of students, what we're looking at doing with Southeast Raleigh Elementary School is a conversation I think we've had at this table about trying to start a school with the staffing that we know is required for the needs of what's anticipated in the school, so that we're creating a model And those are the discussions that we're having right now that will likely require some positions that are not tied to a formula. So if we say that a school this size should, and with the needs of the students that we expect, should have 2 full-time counselors or a counselor and a social worker, then regardless of formula and the number of students, we're putting in that package of support. So in this particular case, we're being intentional about working that on the front end. But generally speaking, when we open a new school, some of those things that we're talking about, counselors and others, are earned based on the number of students. So they do grow into that, which can cause some hardships. More so at a high school or a middle school because of electives that become a part of that, because elementaries also have a baseline for academic MOE to ensure that they offer art, music, and PE to all students. And so that baseline is taken care of even if the enrollment is below that.
Glenn, there's a row of bold print numbers under the columns of the before and after, and I'm trying to understand what those numbers mean. Because if you look at the 2019-20 utilization, 126% and 130% winds up being 109%. I'm trying to understand that math. And then we add another 400 seats, but the utilization is 112% in the aftermath. So I'm not sure what the purpose of those numbers is.
We'll go back and review and see. I believe they're supposed to be calculated down. It may be that row just didn't get updated in the last iteration.
There's also there's additional students added to Southeast Raleigh because of our early estimates on on-campus seating. So right now there's 75 students in these numbers that do not come from the other schools. So those are additional numbers that weren't in the previous numbers. That's part of the reason you're seeing that.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I would appreciate checking however these numbers are calculated. Yeah. Thank you.
And on Southeast Raleigh, where the capacity with and without trailers doesn't change to 426, is that because there won't be trailers? Is that to say that there won't be trailers?
Yeah,
that's what the number is.
Yeah, the land, I believe, does not allow them to have trailers.
Yeah, there's no space.
Yeah, so you may see that with several schools where that number just repeats itself. That means they just can't have trailers. Or we just don't have them planned for them. Okay. All right, so year-round versus traditional capacity. This question came up when we were looking at Parkside and Alston Ridge Middle School. And so what we did was we wanted to share with you what would happen if Parkside opened as a multi-track year-round school as opposed to traditional. And as you can see right off the bat, there's about a 200 capacity gain by opening up as a multi-track year-round school. Based on this current scenario, if we were to open it up as traditional, the school would open severely overcrowded, just as all of the other schools in the area. That would mean that we would have to make less of an impact on the neighboring schools, and that would need to move further away from the epicenter of where the new school is and affect many more students and families going well into Raleigh or other parts of the county. So due to the high growth in the area and the need for seats in this particular area, we're proposing that Parkside opens as a multi-track year-round school with a capacity of 834. We're offering a traditional calendar application school of Powell Elementary. And I want you to just hold on that for a second because I'm going to come back and have a discussion about that. The impacted schools are Alston Ridge Elementary, Carpenter Elementary, Cedar Fork Elementary, Mills Park Elementary, and Morrisville Elementary. And as you can see by the current status of all of these schools, they are severely overcrowded at this point, and so this school is desperately needed in this area. So here's the before and after maps. This blue over here, or purple, this is Austin Ridge Elementary. This pink is Carpenter Elementary. Cedar Fork is in the green, Morrisville in the dark blue, and Mills Park in the light blue. Okay? So here on the aftermath, this is the yellow is Parkside. And so there's a couple things I'd like to point out about the changes here. So Parkside, the base attendance area for Parkside. Oops. Here we go. So these students here in Cedar Fork, they're on a traditional calendar today. So the students in this section right in here, this yellow, they would be proposed to move from a traditional calendar to a multi-track year-round calendar in this proposal. Students over here in this section that were in Mills Park that are being proposed to move to Carpenter, they would also be from a traditional calendar elementary being proposed to move to a multi-track year-round school. And then there's a small portion here from Cedar Fork in the southern portion that's assigned from Cedar Fork or traditional into Carpenter, which is a multi-track year-round school. And we do have a small move here from Carpenter into Morrisville. These families actually live right across the street from the school, so we felt like this would be a good move to move them in due to proximity. When you look at Carpenter Elementary, there were these two neighborhoods up in here. So under this proposal, they would leave Carpenter and be assigned to Austin Ridge, and then this area here would be assigned to the new school of Parkside.
Can you go back, Lynn?
Oh, sorry.
On the map on the left, would you tell me those names again, please, of where they're currently going?
Where they're currently going?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so
The blue up in
the lighter purplish blue, their attendance area is all over here. So it's Austin Ridge here, this area in here, and then down through here. That's all Austin Ridge.
Correct.
This pink currently today.
Correct.
This pinkish up here, this is Carpenter today, as well as this area here, here, and here. Morrisville today is this area right in here. Cedar Fork today goes up like this, and then Mills Park today is this piece, and then all of this. And then the after is the result there in the same color.
And the Mills Park to Carpenter move was talked about 2 years ago, so they know that was.
Yep, we brought it up last year when we opened up Hortons Creek. We did mention to these families, I believe it's Cameron Pond, and told them that we were planning to move them when we opened E50, which is Parkside.
It was 2 years ago.
It was 2 years ago.
Oh.
That's
why.
Okay. So here's the before and after data tables. Now I wanted to point out two things here. Carpenter, as you can see, it doesn't look like they get much relief in this particular move. But I do have some suggestions that we're going to make in slides later on that will show that we are going to provide some relief to Carpenter, okay? As well as Morrisville. You'll see that as well. Morrisville did actually gain students in this move, but we're looking to make some additional changes as well that will kind of offset that. Okay. So we had originally, I had mentioned Powell Elementary as a possible traditional calendar option, and I'm going to introduce the principal of Powell to talk more about the school and what it has to offer. Mr. Curtis Brower.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
So Powell has been a magnet school in Wake County Public Schools for around 36 years and was one of the first initial magnet schools in Wake County. We're a very small, family-friendly, oriented school just inside the Beltline in Wake County. And beginning in the 16-17 school year, we went through a magnet read theme, and we are now the Center for Play in Ingenuity Magnet Elementary School. Unlike other magnet schools, we are unique in that our theme is exclusive to Powell. We are the only Center for Play and Ingenuity in Wake County schools, as well as the state, as well as the nation. There are no other Play and Ingenuity schools that we know of. So we have been building this magnet program since 2016 to 17 and have seen great success. At Powell, we don't just play around. Instead, we find ways to meaningfully engage our students through learning in ways that they like and things that interest them. Our students are curious and creative learners who are interested in art, design, and media and technology. And we strive to, on the teaching of our students, to work collaboratively and become great critical thinkers and lifelong learners. This image shows our core concepts at Powell Center for Play and Ingenuity. We have three components to our education system, and the one on top, being the most important, is our core instruction. And our core instruction is that we focus on the core instruction as all elementary schools and Wake County schools do, following all of our standards through ELA, math, science, and social studies. While we teach our core instruction, we implement play-based learning as well as game-like learning and elements of play into our everyday core academics. As well as our core academics, another key component of our instruction are electives. And many folks are accustomed to hearing electives as in other magnet schools as well as middle schools, in that electives are basic individual single-based themes or topics of subjects of interest that students take. So we have band and orchestra and drama and PE and different arts electives, pottery, school news, those type things. One of the things that makes Powell so special and so unique is we've created domains. And so the domains are taking multiple electives and putting them together to have a very broad, themed, multidisciplinary approach to learning. So where you see on the screen arts and innovations, that may be an elective, that may be a domain where there were multiple electives pulled together, so you get a variety of different types of electives through that one class of domains. Domains are team taught. They are team taught by teachers, and then students have access to learner agency and the 4 C's by working with specialists. So while students are engaged in the learning in their independent theme, or excuse me, in their independent domain, while they're working on let's say nature play, they decide they want to write a rap around different trees that they've learned. They then can do a learning pass and go to the music teacher during that domain period, and one of our music teachers will help that student then write a rap about the trees that they've learned. And so again, it's multidisciplinary, and students are able to access the curriculum and have that learning agency to do the curriculum as they wish for their learning. We also have other exciting experiences at Powell. We're excited to host the World Peace Game. Our play integration specialist went to a national training and actually was trained by John Hunter, who's the designer of this game. It's played in 26 different countries, and we are the only school in North Carolina to play the game. Wow. Basically, the game is set up, there's 4 countries in the game, and students are challenged by given crisis that they have to work through as a team to get through and solve. And we're very excited that we are the first school that Mr. Hunter has worked with that we have solved all of the crises, and he had to create some new ones for us in our first year. So that was very exciting. The second exciting experiences that we like to share is that we have a partnership with Marbles Kids Museum. We have Play Ingenuity Play Leaders, where the Marbles staff has come in and trained students who have signed up for that club, if you will, and they teach them all the play leaders the play leader skills that the play leaders at Marbles have, and then our students then display those leadership skills at school by students in 3rd through 5th grade being able to go down and demonstrate those skills working with younger students and assisting at recess if they can, or going in and helping that play-based learning in the K through 2 classrooms. And then the other leadership opportunity we have is we currently have the PlayWorks program, which is an organization that comes in and assists with recess and creating team time and just helping students learn to play together better. And part of the PlayWorks theme is that we have the junior coaches program, so our PlayWorks coach meets with the students that sign up for that club on a weekly basis, and those students get trained on the fundamentals of play, and then they too as well assist as play leaders at recess, as well as leading different games and different activities at school.
And so one of the other pieces that we'd like to add to this to make it more enticing for parents is that not only would they be able to attend Powell, but the pathway, we would be treating them like magnet students, and they would get a pathway to Ligon Middle School and then Enloe High School. And what's interesting is that the families that currently live in this attendance area, they do not have access to apply to Ligon Middle School. So we're hoping that maybe this will help draw some more interest in this particular pathway. And we also wanted to take some feedback we had gotten from Ms. Mahaffey, which we're very thankful, always thinking of, the families. If we're going to ask families to go to areas that are not in their proximate area, can we look at ways to help them with their before and after care needs? And so what we decided to do was reach out to the Northwest YMCA to see could they serve as an express bus stop and provide aftercare for Powell students. And so we're working with them, and we'll continue to update you with more information on that. But we felt like trying to be a little bit more proactive in that process.
So maybe before school as well.
And so I think a lot of you may be asking, well, why? And I want to say, why not at this point after hearing that presentation. But I think one of the bits of feedback we got from a lot of the families, no matter where we were, was if we're going to be able to offer application schools, could they, if they weren't, they wanted ones that were more proximate. And if we don't have seats that are proximate, we need to find different ways to provide opportunities for families to either have the traditional calendar. And I think this kind of goes hand in hand where we're offering magnet seats to families and access to different programming in order to be on the calendar that they like, and it helps us with relieving some of the crowding in this area. So that's why we're offering Powell as a application school for these families.
And I think before care, if the Northwest Y would be so kind to look into that as well.
Sure.
I think that would help these families in this area.
He said it. He just said it.
Okay. I'm just making sure because
He said it.
That's a great presentation. I'm glad you hold all that together for us.
Well, before care would make the express bus stop work very well in the morning.
right. Well, and aftercare, I mean, it's hard to get there at
The elevator's the hardest.
2:30, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock when it gets there.
Great idea.
Yeah. Thank you.
Another 35.
Okay.
Dr. Warren. Yes.
So I really like this strategy, as we talked about before. But based on our choice plan history, guaranteed pathways for 13 years are something that we realized were not possible. Let's just say that with the full choice plan. Now, I think it's much more possible with the magnet plan, but I'm just curious about the guarantee. What do we mean by that? If it's a 13-year commitment, if somebody starts with a kindergartner.
So if they access this opportunity to Powell, we will have them coded as a magnet student, and then we will have it coded so that when they do their application, they will be the ones who will be able to only select Ligon moving forward. They would still have to ask for it during the appropriate application period, but we would grant all of these requests.
So just to clarify, if a family chooses this option for middle school, they would be sent to whatever their base assign is unless they apply to go to Ligon. They would still have to apply to go to Ligon, but they would get priority seating.
So, we haven't really worked that one out because I was hoping to more start this at Powell and have it straight from Powell all the way through. We haven't considered, and we'd have to look at it, do we want to open it up to, if it's not at the elementary, if they want to start at the middle school.
Oh, I was asking
sorry.
if you're, I was asking if I'm, my child is in kindergarten at Powell, although our base is Parkside, is really traditional. And so we're doing this option in the January of their 5th grade year. I would still, as a parent, need to apply to Lincoln, is what I'm just trying to clarify. It's not you're automatically going. You still need to make sure to do the magnet application.
That is correct. For all students, for all students, magnet and transfers and all of that, whenever they go into 6th grade or into 9th grade, we always assign them back to their base school, and then they have to apply to go elsewhere. So we always do this. So that would be the same case here for these families.
All right, thanks. Just making sure it's clear.
So that's what I wanted to clarify about a guarantee.
Well,
guarantee as long as you request it.
That's correct. And it's hard, I wish we had the capability to do this for them so people don't have to ask for it, but it becomes pretty cumbersome because you don't know what parents' intentions are.
Yeah, they may not even want that. Yeah.
And at least it's at the transition school level, not every level. So
correct.
I think
correct.
So just to perhaps amplify why this is an appropriate strategy, because Powell and this area we're talking about is not close to each other.
Correct.
There is some transportation involved. Our current projection of needing new schools in the Parkside Mills Park area is we're going to need 4 schools beyond the ones that are currently under construction between US 64 and the the Durham-Wake County line. We don't have funding for those 4 schools. But our population growth, our projections said we need 4 schools in that general area, and what you went through earlier, they're not on the drawing board yet. So this is a critical strategy to provide family stability and also to reduce demand for seats in Western Wake. It's a very positive strategy. I'm glad to see you put it on the table.
So we're now going to move into Alston Ridge Middle School. So again, I brought this slide back to show the traditional versus year-round, and we would be able to gain about 300 seats in this particular area with Alston Ridge Middle School opening as a multi-track year-round as opposed to traditional. Looking at it, it would be slightly overcrowded at the time, opening as traditional. However, this would not accommodate for future growth in this particular area. And as Mr. Fletcher just pointed out, there is growth well beyond 2021-22 that will continue to tax the schools in this area. And we feel like due to its proximity to Parkside and us making the recommendation of Parkside as being multi-track year-round, we're going to propose that Alston Ridge Middle School is also multi-track year-round with a capacity of 1,600. Its traditional calendar application school we're proposing to be West Cary Middle School, and the impacted schools being Davis Drive Middle School, East Cary Middle School, Mills Park Middle School, and West Cary Middle School. And you can see how crowded these schools are now. East Cary is currently operating as a multi-track year-round right now. And then West Cary, it's showing as 89% crowded with trailers right now. However, in the last year, and this was last year's reported enrollment, they've already gained students year over year, so that the school is becoming more and more crowded, and it just shows the growth in that particular area. So here's the before and after. So Alston Ridge Middle School is right here. It sits within the Mills Park Middle School base attendance area. Mills Park Middle School is in green. You have West Cary here in this purplish color, or fuchsia. Brown is Davis Drive. The blue here and up here is East Cary Middle School. The dark blue here and all through here is Reedy Creek Middle School. Okay? And then you have Lufkin Road, Apex, Dillard, and Martin. Okay? So in the after, we're proposing here, and I want you to just take a look at this particular area right now, because I'm going to talk a little bit more about Eastern Cary in a couple extra slides, but I want you to focus right on here. One of the goals we were able to achieve in this area was K-8 alignment for families with their calendar. So everywhere from the belt line out 40 to the county line to 64 and back to 1, that whole wedge, every student who's in a traditional calendar elementary will have a traditional calendar middle school for their base, and vice versa for year-round. So we're providing stability for families K-8. And that was one of the goals that we were able to accomplish, as well as reduce the crowding at several other schools, okay, Mills Park being one, Davis Drive, and Reedy Creek, which I'll talk a little bit about more when we talk about East Cary. Okay? So here are the before and after slides. As you can see, Davis Drive Middle School, we were able to provide some relief. They have a projected crowding of 140% for their brick and mortar building, and you can bring that down to 103%. That is not just this one particular move. There is another move that we'll talk about later that goes along with this. And Mills Park Middle School, you can see, goes from 130% down to 105%. So, and Mills Park Middle School is an area where we still will have continued growth long term, and so as much as we can move students from west to east, I think is a benefit for the district, and so you'll continue to see that theme in several other moves that we're going to propose in the upcoming slides.
Because we can't build schools in Durham.
Yeah.
Good point.
That is very true.
Glad you.
Charter school won't build it.
Yeah. You achieved the goal from the feedback that we got from that particular area of the proximity, the difference between going to Austin Ridge and having to drive in traffic to East Cary is going to be huge for those families. And I think provide, too, additional support to the school, because many of those families work at Research Triangle. They can get to the school to support the program. So thank you for doing that.
So let's move along to Green Level High School. So Green Level High School is going to open on the traditional calendar. It has a capacity of 2,266. Staff has changed their recommendation. We're going to propose to open the school as 9 and 10, with grades 9 and 10 only. The impacted schools would be Apex High School, Cary High School, Green Hope High School, and Panther Creek High School. The impacted schools, their current ones, their status is here. And I just want to point out something. At Apex High School, you can see their crowding and utilization. That is showing with their increased capacity when they move to their new building. So when they move back next year, they will have an increased capacity. And you'll see some of those moves trying to assist other schools with their crowding concerns in this proposal. So here we have Panther Creek High School is right here in this light blue, and Green Level is located within the base attendance area there. The green here is Green Hope High School. The dark green is Cary High, Athens Drive in orange, and then the red is Apex. And so the aftermath, you can see here, this yellow is Green Level High. Okay. It takes students completely from the Panther Creek base. So our goal is to look at reducing the number of trailers on Panther Creek and eventually Green Hope as well. And so we're hoping that this will accomplish that. There are a significant number of students who live in this area. It is a high-growth area. There are three moves I wanted to point out. So there's a section here that moves from Panther Creek High School to Green Hope High School. That was proposed to align a middle school, high school feeder. The same as over here. They moved from Green Hope to Apex. That move right there to align a middle school, high school feeder. This little move right in here, we're going to talk about this in a future slide. And then we have a proposed area here that we would like to assign to Apex High School, and that would help relieve the crowding at Cary High. And with the increased capacity at Apex, we feel like they would be able to assist with that. And thankfully, these are all traditional calendar schools, so you don't have to worry about changing the calendar. Here are the before and after numbers. Now these numbers reflect. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Finish.
These numbers reflect the end result. This would be as if there was no grandfathering and all the students were assigned, because you can see Panther Creek is significantly reduced. But again, that is assuming that 9 through 12 would be assigned to this school, and that's not the case. It would only be 9 through 10.
Oh, okay.
This is more reflective of 3 years from now.
Correct.
3 years from then.
Well, assuming no growth.
Well, he answered the question I was going to ask.
Did you need a little more time?
Well, if I could underscore the need to reduce the number of trailers at Green Hope and Panther Creek. I mean, they're excessive, and the core capacity is clearly being strained.
And they've consumed other program space.
And they've consumed program space if they need that. So this has been a long-awaited high school.
The whole band might even be able to practice together at Green Hope High School.
I appreciate looking at 9-10. I heard from a lot of families that were concerned of their to-be rising gym year, that is a difficult year to transition in. So I appreciate staff taking that into consideration.
Well, a second consideration for that is the grandfathering would have had to be pretty restricted in order to achieve the goal and efficiency of having a sufficient number of juniors in order to do what needed to be done there. So that was another piece of it.
Can you remind me, Green Hope is not relieved much. They go from 138 to 132, or 130 with, trailer still has capacity, but we don't have in the long-range plan any further relief, do we? And I don't really see other schools. I mean, Green Hope is a little bit landlocked now based on this. So I mean, there's a lot of logic to what's been presented here, but we haven't given Green Hope much relief. So you want to comment about that?
I think, I'll just, before Glenn jumps in, I think there are 340-some students who are in the Panther Creek base today that have been capped out to Green Hope.
Right.
So that's another 340 students that over time will go away.
Does that reflect in the 1920 or the 21-22 numbers?
Yes, cap numbers are reflected in these.
So if cap numbers are reflected, you're saying they are included or they've been taken out?
All the cap numbers are included.
So once the cap number goes down, that is going to relieve Green Hope. Is that correct?
I think the bigger picture on this chart is the data that we get from ORED is that Green Hope seems to be leveling off in growth. If you look out at 2021, it's down to 82% with trailers.
With trailers.
With trailers, yeah.
but we have like 36 trailers on it. So you've got 124% capacity without trailers. So the point is we're not addressing Green Hope to the extent that long-term needs to be addressed. Is that?
It'll take longer, depending on, and also depends on what happens with growth and the decision that's made about the number of trailers on campus.
Can you tell us what 65% at green level in 21-22? That is assuming they are 9th, 10th, and 11th grade, or 9th, 10th, and 12th grade by 21-22?
All grades.
All grades, 21-22. So, and they'll be at 65%. So is there?
There is a lot of development coming.
I think that's based on the existing students in the base.
Gotcha.
I just drove up that direction today, and I think there's 2 subdivisions that weren't there the last time I drove past, which wasn't that long ago.
White Oak area.
And there's some 9th graders that might move in.
Yes.
Okay. Gotcha. Thank you.
I think this area was a little bit slower to develop than we had originally planned when we go to open White Oak, but it's certainly coming.
It's coming.
Yeah.
And that's happened before, where developers somehow developed the schedule for some of my schools.
Good question.
We don't talk about that.
Am I hearing, would you like us to review these base attendance areas a little bit further to see if we can provide additional support for Green Hope in the more immediate future?
So this is the first time I've been able to really chew over numbers at all, and that just looks like an outline. Okay. And it doesn't look like green. I mean, if we build another high school, it's unlikely to be.
Well, we own land down near between Apex and Holly Springs, north of Highway 55.
Exactly, and
that won't help.
That won't help Green Hope.
We don't want to overdo green level either. So
we don't want to overdo Green level, but we don't want to just relieve Panther Creek when Green Hope also.
But I want to be sure we're not shifting kids into that we have to shift out later.
We don't know.
100% agree with that. I don't think we want to take all the trailers off of Panther Creek and leave all the trailers on Green Hope, for example.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
I get what you're saying. Right.
But I will say that we have no control over where people choose to live.
Correct.
And we're responding to that, and we're typically responding 5 to 6 years after they make those choices.
Yep.
Unfortunately, our previous student assignment plans, when Green Hope opened, we moved a lot of kids out of Cary, and within 3 years, we had to move a portion of them back.
Right.
The same thing happened when Panther Creek opened.
Exactly.
So we don't want that to happen here, and I appreciate staff's caution.
Yes.
Just so we're not too cautious.
Yes.
So I kind of share your concern, but I also don't want to have to move people 3 years from now.
Right. Exactly.
That was my point. Yeah.
Which requires us and staff to be thinking that far out. So thank you.
And having accurate data.
Not just from our people, but from everyone.
From everybody, not our people.
Okay, so now we're going to move into, that concludes the 4 schools that are opening. Okay, now we're looking at some other moves dealing with operational efficiency. So we have some overcrowded and underutilized schools we would like to try to address. The first section will address, try to increase the base attendance areas for selected schools. We're going to look at trying to address schools with enrollment caps. We're looking to adjust the calendar application areas so that we can improve the acceptance rates as well as improve the utilization at some schools. We have some schools that are application schools that are overcrowded. And then we're looking at reviewing base assignments in downtown Raleigh and the surrounding area. Okay. So the first move here that we'd like to talk about is East Cary Middle School. So I know we had talked about this previously when we were opening Alston Ridge Middle School, but now I want to explain this a little bit further. Our goals for this were to do the following. We wanted to keep K-8 alignment for families within this section of the county, because that was an overarching goal when we're opening up the new schools as well. We're looking at reducing the crowding at Reedy Creek Middle School, which is the dark blue right here. That is Reedy Creek. Reedy Creek is currently capped, so we're looking at providing some relief to that school. It's also a magnet school that's capped, so there's that dilemma. They're overcrowded, and we're sending base out, but we're trying to take magnet students in, so we wanted to reduce the crowding at that school. And then we also wanted to be able to provide a proximate application school for Alston Ridge Middle School. Because the options here, you could have had Reedy Creek, but it's capped, West Cary, or East Cary. And so what we'd like to do is, since East Cary is a multi-track year-round school that is underutilized, the only way to increase the base attendance area with some proximate students would be to change the calendar, because there are no other year-round schools in the area, in this immediate area, other than Salem. And Salem doesn't need any relief to their base attendance area. So by increasing the base attendance area for East Cary as a traditional school, we're able to take all of this section out in here that is Reedy Creek today. These students are in a traditional calendar elementary, and we're now going to assign them to a traditional calendar middle school, which would be East Cary. This would reduce the number of students at Reedy Creek, so it opens it up for more magnet students where we can pull from Western Wake. Okay. In order to, we will also open up seats at West Cary so that they can take on additional application students. And then the base attendance area here would have to creep all the way out to Davis Drive. That goes a little bit further than you normally see, but it's important that west to east movement we see in order to fill the schools. The crowding is more in the west. We need to bring students more to the east. And so you'd see this light blue area would be the final area that we're looking to assign to East Cary Middle School. Okay, this is Salem over here in this lime color. This is Davis Drive over here in the brown. West Cary in the fuchsia, and dark purple or blue is Reedy Creek. So now Adams Elementary is currently a multi-track year-round school, and they feed to East Cary Middle School. And so in order to keep Adams as a multi-track year-round school, we would like to then assign them to Lufkin Road Middle School as their base middle school. Okay, this would keep the K-8 alignment. When we looked at trying to move Adams from a multi-track year-round to a traditional, we weren't able to increase the base attendance area, so we didn't see any reason to just change the calendar for the sake of changing the calendar. So we decided to look at other options of trying to provide them another year-round, multi-track year-round option for middle school that is somewhat approximate. So we're going to assign them to Lufkin Road Middle. Okay? So we're going to take a look at the data tables for this. This is the before and after. As you can see, the crowding at Davis Drive. This is coupled with the move from earlier with the Alston Ridge move. It goes from 140 to 103. Reedy Creek goes down from 124 to 69%. East Cary as a multi-track year-round school is at 76%, and that would go to 87% as a traditional calendar school. We're able to increase Lufkin Road from 86% to 98. Again, Mills Park, 130 down to 105. Salem increases from 87 to 105. And that is coupled with some other moves that we'll talk about a little bit later. And then West Cary from 105 to 87%. Okay, so that frees up some application seats. And we felt like it was a lot more proximate than East Cary, so that's why we tried to manage this area so that we had available seats at West Cary for Alston Ridge Middle School families.
With all these moves, I know Mills Park has been capped for, I think, since its creation. Are we looking at a possibility that cap can them off, or moving a school where the cap is going?
I'm very hesitant because of the continued growth still in the Mills Park area. We would always keep the cap on for at least one more year,
Right.
and then we'll review that on a year-by-year basis.
Okay. Yeah, because if we have a high school and White Oak just opened, we may need a middle school somewhere and find some magic land in that area. Okay, just catch.
So Reedy Creek is the application school that will be increasing the possibility for the middle school to have more applications too. Is that why it's a...
Well, for magnet applications.
I mean magnet, yeah.
Yes.
So,
We will
is
be
that...
able to increase their magnet, the seat allotment for them to take in more magnet students.
Is it
Reedy Creek.
Yeah, Reedy Creek Middle School.
Is
that a fairly, is that a school that we have had people want to seek?
This year, we had a very large spike in the number of magnet applications to the school, yes.
That's
So we
good
wanted to
to know.
continue that.
Okay, good.
Lots of visits from elected officials.
So you accomplished a lot in this.
Yeah.
We feel pretty confident about that. We really, trying to align the calendars, Katie, in this area helped us do a lot of other things. And we felt like that stability for families is something that's important. I mean, we looked at the transfer data, and many of you have seen the appeal data, that that mismatched calendars causes a problem for families. So we wanted to try to at least give them that K-8 stability.
A yeoman's job.
But you've also accomplished something I was really, concerned about for a long time, and that is, we say you can apply to a traditional school, but you can look at the numbers and know you're not going to get in because they're just too overcrowded. This means for families that really need that traditional calendar, there's a real choice. You've done a lot of work. A lot of work.
A lot of goals.
Thank you.
We'll keep promoting year-round in the area, too.
Well, I think the Adams move will benefit Lufkin.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, and if people want to go to East Cary, they can apply to East Cary as their middle school and leave the multi-track program. But having 85 to 90 kids have the option to go to Lufkin each year is going to help Lufkin a great deal.
100%.
So Green Hope Elementary is interesting because it has a very small base attendance area, so it relies on a large number of application students in order to fill it. And so what we're looking to do is increase the base attendance area for two reasons. On either side, on the east and west, Weatherstone to the east, here, and Highcroft to the west, they're both schools that have crowding concerns. And so what we're looking to do is increase the base attendance area. There is some new development here. There's some new development here in the western part of Weatherstone, their base attendance area. So we're looking to assign that to Green Hope. And then there is some available land that is going to be planned for future development over here, along with a neighborhood here and then a smaller neighborhood up here that we're looking to assign to Green Hope. This would change the Highcroft students. This would change their middle school from Mills Park Middle School to Davis Drive Middle School. So you see kind of that west to east movement again that we're trying to do. That'll help, again, open up more seats at Mills Park Middle School for long-term health.
I think Highcroft appreciates you not changing their calendar again.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you brought it up, but that's, I mean, we have a serious dilemma with seats in this part of the county, and all of them, the traditional calendar schools are severely overcrowded, and even the multi-track year ones are as well. So, I mean, every little bit that we can do to try to help, we're going to continue to try to do that.
Well, and the fact that you're going to the newly developed areas gives stability to the schools, so the kids that are there, that's really way forward thinking.
Most of these schools that have trailers have had the program spaces compromised. Portland Creek is a classic case. The only place to put it, Highcroft, the only place to put the trailer was on program space.
Yeah.
Now, this plan won't remove the trailer, but it's an indication of just how crowded the schools in Western Wake are. And so I appreciate this strategy.
Okay, Salem Elementary. Salem Elementary currently is underutilized, and so we're looking at ways to try to increase their base attendance area. The schools that are proximate to them are Davis Drive Elementary here to the north, Laurel Park to the east, and then there's Turner Creek here. Davis Drive and Laurel Park do have overcrowding concerns. Okay, so what we're looking at, there is a new development here off of Davis Drive that is going in, and we're looking to assign that to Salem Elementary and Salem Middle School. Okay, and then again to Apex High School instead of Greenhope High School. So you saw that in the high school slide there. That's that little sliver. And then as you get off of 64, there's a church here, and then right across the street from the church, there's a new development that's going to be going in. That's all within, yep. And that development is going to be starting soon, and it's in the Laurel Park Elementary base. And so what we're looking to do is assign that to Salem Elementary as well. Now, Turner Creek is on this, but they are not losing any students. What this has to do is there's a planning unit area. So right over here, there are apartment complexes off of 55. And the back end of their property, they sold to a developer that's developing a neighborhood right in this area in here. Its entry and exit is going to be off of Old Jenks, as well as through the existing neighborhood here that's in the Salem Elementary base already. So since that's going to be a continuation of that neighborhood, we decided to just include it all into Salem Elementary. So there are no students actually. This is the land that's behind the property, the apartment complexes where no students are living. So it's not affecting any students coming out of Turner Creek.
Glenn, will you talk about the overlapping assignment areas like Turner Creek and Olive Chapel, or Turner Creek and, Laurel Park and Salem have overlapping application area? Are you talking about that later in the presentation?
Yes, we're going to discuss that as well.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so Yates Mill Elementary. This is another school that, due to the K-3 class size legislation, has had some serious impact. They actually are on my short list of looking at schools that potentially could be capped for next year. And so what we wanted to do here is try to find a way to reduce the base attendance area for Yates Mill. And we were able to locate a portion of their base attendance area here that's right over by, I believe that's Lake Wheeler. Okay, so this is what the base attendance areas look like today. Green is Swift Creek, and then the purple is Yates Mill. Okay, and so this section here, we're proposing to move from Yates Mill to Swift Creek. It's a traditional calendar school to a traditional calendar school, so there shouldn't be any issues with the calendar change.
This slide should say reduce base attendance.
Yes, correct. Sorry. It's increased for Swift.
Right. So you just change Yates Mill to Swift or increase
Oh, man, you're good.
It's fair to say that we keep talking about renovating Swift Creek. When that happens, that will be able to bring a little bit more relief to this area.
That is correct. Yes, that will open up additional seats.
But it's kind of hard to give relief before we have that renovation.
Correct. Correct.
Well, we could rent a tent.
That's worse than the trailers.
Yeah.
All right, so addressing school with enrollment caps. As you can see, a lot of the schools that are on this list, they've already been mentioned in one way, shape, or form with the opening of a new school or some of the other changes that we proposed. Some of the other schools on this list may be affected with a future school opening, so we're not proposing any moves in this year's plan, but possibly in the near future. But you will see some schools that will try to address schools with enrollment caps moving forward. Combs Elementary being one of those. Combs Elementary here is in the greenish color. This is their base attendance area. This is Dillard Drive Elementary in the darker color, red, and then the blue is Olds. And so Olds is an interesting school because of its size. I have spoken to the principal, though their utilization looks very crowded here. She's always been able to accommodate more students than the building capacity says, and she is okay with being able to take on additional students, even though the chart there does not make sense. Okay, so I didn't want to worry you by saying, oh, you're sticking more kids into an overcrowded school already. So this portion here, the northern portion, we would send from Combs to Olds, again, a traditional school to a traditional school. And then over here, this section looks pretty large, but a lot of that is the NC State Centennial campus. So it's large in geographic area, but it's not really a large amount of students. You've got some homes here in this area that go down towards the Tammy Lynn Center, and then homes along Gorman Street there, okay? And so we're proposing that this section go to from Combs to Dillard Drive Elementary. And this will help relieve the crowding at Combs, which is currently capped. Yes.
Now, why do we think these kids can fit better into Olds than Combs? Because Olds, yeah, that school, you know, to me is hard to put a lot of kids into. So we think those kids will be, I'm concerned about that one.
Well, does Olds have, are there larger classes right now at 4th and 5th grade, and they have lower class sizes younger down, or do we know the distribution? That was something else.
Yeah.
But the principal has me on speed dial every year. Because when we look at the numbers that I feel that we should be filling the school with, she always has
Thank you. I know.
Yeah, desire for more, but not just a desire for more. She has a legitimate desire, not just she's asking for additional students. She has the space. I think she has other programs that run at the school that she needs the additional students to make sure that those programs run as well. If you'd like additional information, I can definitely get her to come talk to you. But she has the available capacity. She's asked for it.
Well, that school's, where is it? Did it already have renovations? I know it.
No. It was on an earlier one in the 90s and got dropped off.
So that's my other concern, is the fact that, you know, it's kind of been pushed back. That's what I thought. It's been pushed back as well, so I don't know that I feel comfortable with the Combs to Olds move yet.
Combs has had a major renovation. They're not on any list to have more.
She's asked about Olds. She's asked about Olds. Well, and Olds is in a very established neighborhood, and it's a really, it's a very walkable school.
Yeah, I've been there.
3-story elementary school.
Right, and it's been
unusual.
But every year, as Glenn was saying, because of the demographics and aging out, there's not a lot of new family development like we see in the West. And its history as a magnet was driven by the fact that it had aged out and had space and near NC State. So it has had a history of having a lot of transfers in to Olds. So, and as Glenn said, come the spring, she was on Laura Evans' speed dial, and then passed on to Glenn. So it's a tricky school. So I think, and it's approximate part of.
I just want to be. Yeah, I was just looking at the numbers, and I just want to be sure it's not to fill certain program pieces, and that the classrooms are really tight.
Well, we can do two things. Check the by grade level numbers to see if that has an impact, and we'll actually take some time to get to the school and look at what's going on.
See what the transfer numbers look like.
I mean, this begs the question, is the capacity number the correct number? We've had this issue multiple times. So, I mean, if there need more people than the capacity says, that probably says our capacity number is not right.
And look at that, too.
That's why we need to send somebody out there to take a look at how the building's being
You're going to have
the base number.
But you're going to have to bump that up to Christine's point of it's also transfer prone, which we won't see when we look at these numbers.
And it's always going to be transfer prone because of NC State.
Well, that's our point.
Yeah.
I'm just making a point that it's not just one of those that we still have to pay attention to.
That would help me.
We're making a decision without.
We don't want to probably make it a school that can't have some of the transfers.
Yeah, that's not been a problem.
But we also need to.
We got 20
Sorry. Okay, so Heritage High School. So Heritage High School is capped. We're looking to reduce the base attendance area, and so we've got, it's a three-pronged move here. So the first piece I'm going to show you, this is Heritage in the very light blue. We've got Rollsville in the pink, Wakefield in this little bit darker shade of blue, and then in the dark red here is Millbrook High School, okay? So the first piece I want you to look at is this section right in here. So this section here, this is bringing a neighborhood together and another neighborhood that's connecting to it into Rollsville. So the early phase of this neighborhood was assigned to Heritage High School, and then the later phases were assigned to Rollsville High School, which just happened to be where the planning units were. What we're doing is bringing that neighborhood all to Rollsville High School. There is a new development that's coming in that exits out on Forestville Road that's connecting to the original piece that's assigned to Heritage, so we're asking to bring that new development out as well to Rollsville. Then, if you look here, we've got Capitol Boulevard is the new buffer between Heritage and Wakefield. So these families right in this particular area here going down Capitol Boulevard on the western side, they're currently attending Heritage. If anybody's been up in that area, you can almost walk from this area to Wakefield High School. So we are assigning them to Wakefield High School. And then here in the Bedford Falls, I believe, area it is, we have two moves. So we've got Wakefield Middle School assigned to Heritage High School, and East Millbrook Middle School assigned to Heritage High School in this area. And so what we're proposing to do is the portion that's assigned to Wakefield Middle School, have them assigned to Wakefield High School for that consistency. And then the portion that's assigned to East Millbrook Middle School, have them assigned to Millbrook High School for that middle school, high school consistency.
Which is where they probably should have all been to begin with. Just throwing it out there.
That is correct.
Yes.
I live there.
But we're going to fix them.
And a lot of this has to do with, we have immediate growth right around Heritage High School, and actually directly across from the entrance, there's land that's been sold, they've started developing, and all along Forestville Road. So those are very close proximity to the school, so we need to look at reducing the base attendance area in other ways.
What's that white area? Is that just on that, like
Right up
a
in here?
lake or something?
That's actually Wake Forest, their base attendance area. Up
okay.
north here.
And then,
Yep, right up in there.
No, the whole.
and the whole would be the same.
That's Wake Forest, yes.
Okay.
Now, the area that's to the left of Wake Forest, they're up to the right of Capitol, but to the left of the center hole, down.
Down.
That area there that you're taking.
Right here?
Yeah,
Oh.
to the left.
Down here.
Is there a reason it would go to Wakefield instead of?
So that's all west of Capitol Boulevard.
Okay.
So everything.
Okay.
So Capitol Boulevard would now be the new buffer between Heritage and
Capitol's
Wakefield.
not the big black line. It's a little line. Okay, never mind. I was reading the map wrong.
Yeah, there's also this is train tracks right here. That line right there, those are train tracks that run right along Capitol Boulevard there.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Okay.
Trying to read it if you squint.
Okay. I wasn't doing that.
All right, so application area changes. We were hoping to accomplish several things here. We have some schools, let's say Adams Elementary, use it as the first example. All of the students, no matter where they live in the Adams base attendance area, can apply to two different schools, Reedy Creek Elementary and Swift Creek Elementary. So you could have two kids who live next door to each other. One goes to Reedy Creek, one goes to Swift Creek. And so in an effort to try to maximize transportation efficiencies, as well as try to provide some relief at some overcrowded application schools, we decided to propose some changes here. So the way to read this, if it's green, that means it's going to remain as the application school for that base school. The base schools are listed on the left. The very far right column, those are schools that were not previously offered as application schools that we are proposing. And then by catchment, I'll explain. I have some maps. So just to go through, so Adams currently applies to Reedy Creek and Swift Creek. We're proposing to move the students who are currently attending Swift Creek from the Adams base to attend Reedy Creek and only offer Reedy Creek Elementary now for families in the Adams Elementary base. And you can see those proposed changes going down. Davis Drive and Green Hope, they were previously applying to schools that were overcrowded, And so we're looking at removing those as options and using Salem and Turner Creek. And the reason for that, too, is Davis Drive and Green Hope, their middle school base is Davis Drive Middle School, which applies to Salem. So we're trying to find some consistency for families so that if you are in a particular base and you apply for the application school, that you will have elementary, middle school consistency with those families. And a lot of that you're going to see in some of these examples. Swift Creek and Yates Mill, who go to Dillard, you'll see that as well with some of those attendance areas or application areas.
Glenn, just for clarifying, particularly for the public, I think we should emphasize that this is calendar application school.
I was trying to...
It's not a generic application school. It's a different calendar.
Yes.
It's a calendar application.
And we probably, it's going to be another banner that we constantly have to remind because we use very similar language to very different things.
I do it wrong.
Thanks for bringing that up.
It's a calendar application. It's not a calendar guarantee. It's not...
Well, it's also not a magnet application.
I think it's language. Thank you.
Okay. One thing I did want to be very clear, though, with the board is, so the students in the red who are attending that school in the red, they will be reassigned to a school in the green. Okay?
That is a great clarifier, not a great.
That's a big thing for us to remember.
It is.
All right, and the purpose for staff recommending this is you can see schools on there like Morrisville and Carpenter who are severely overcrowded. When I talked about trying to provide additional relief from the earlier slides where it was showing that they were crowded, this helps accomplish that. Okay?
Well, and it also gives an option that is an option, whereas if I'm trying to get into Morrisville as an application, there probably isn't room. So by using Adams as the application school, I'm more likely to get the calendar that I'm applying to rather than...
And that's the positive part for the families that aren't there yet, but we still have to be sensitive to remember
absolutely.
These are absolute reassignments of these kids. Even though we're keeping them in the same calendar, these kids are being reassigned to another school.
Yes.
Yes.
And we'll get to grandfathering in a few minutes.
Okay.
So, this may come up at grandfathering. So, if I was assigned to Davis Drive and I'm at Morrisville, and I got to Morrisville on a transfer approved by the board, would I then stay at Morrisville or go to Turner Creek?
So any family that is assigned to an application school, a calendar application school for their address. So in the example that you just gave, my base is Davis Drive. I went through the hardship transfer period. They are still assigned to that school as an application student, okay, not as a transfer student.
Oh, they always are?
Yes, anytime, because that's how they're still able to get the district transportation.
Okay.
And so that, I know we had that dilemma last year, and I'm glad you brought that up so we can clarify. When you go to the address lookup, and if you see that school, any school listed as your calendar application school, and you are attending that school, then you would be subject to this particular change. That is correct, even though you went through the hardship transfer period, not the calendar application period. That's correct.
That's fair.
You get one base and then application schools based on.
And those are different types of.
But if it was a true hardship and that hardship remains,
They can go through the
you would have to go through the process again.
That helps a lot. Is that true with magnets too?
No, magnets, they do not experience changes during reassignment because
But what if you're a transfer student into a magnet school, but you actually live where that school is offered as a magnet? Do you remain a transfer student, or?
So you live where that school.
If you're going to I just have to clarify this now, and I'm sorry I have to, because if you live in the area that a school is a magnet, but you didn't get in under magnet, you got in under transfer, similar to this, you don't get switched. You don't automatically become a magnet student.
No.
So it's different for magnets.
Yeah, the only way you can be given a magnet status is either through the magnet application process, or if during the board appeal process, the hardship transfers, you qualify for magnet status, and then the board decides to offer that to you as well. But if families have a specific question, they can contact our office. We're more than happy to explain. All right, so here are the proposed application changes for middle school. And you can see East Cary's on there a lot because if we're going to we're proposing to change the calendar from traditional to year-round, we had to make adjustments. A couple of things I just wanted to point out. We are Lufkin Road. So Lufkin Road, the existing Lufkin Road base today's base, we are not proposing application area changes for any of those students. This change is only affecting the Adams Elementary area that's being assigned to Lufkin Road. So I wanted to clarify that, okay? So only the Adams Elementary base attendance area that would be proposed assigned to Lufkin Road would be eligible to apply to East Cary Middle School, okay?
Oh, just clarifying that catchment means geographic area.
Yes.
They're on the dictionary.
Yeah, and I'm actually going to go through and show you some maps by all the ones that have an asterisk next to it. I'm going to show you these attendance areas down, the application areas down. So here is the existing Swift Creek base attendance area today. Okay? And so here is the proposed application areas. So like I said, there could be 2 kids living in this area, and one goes to Swift Creek, and one goes to Adams. And 2 buses come in for them. So what we're trying to do is make it a geographical location and assign to particular schools. So Swift Creek students who live in this particular area in the blue, they would only be able to apply to Adams. Students here in the red would be able to apply to Oak Grove. And then the green would be able to apply to Timber Drive. And I know that looks kind of silly with that little island there, but I'm going to go to the next slide and show you Yates Mill, which is a school. Their base attendance areas, it's kind of like a yin and yang. They're next to each other. So the students here in purple in Yates Mill, they would apply to Timber Drive. And then again, overlapping or being adjacent to the Oak Grove attendance application area for Swift Creek, these students would be able to apply to Oak Grove here in the southern portion of Yates Mill. Okay? And again, this works with the alignment going towards middle school. So these particular areas that would apply to Timber, they would also apply to North Garner for middle school. The Oak Grove areas would apply to Lufkin, and then Adams would apply to Lufkin as well, because that's where the base for Adams is. We tried to really think about that and be strategic for families, so that if you were going to one of those schools and you made friends with a base student, you'd still get to go to middle school with them because you're on that same.
Okay, good. Okay.
We weren't able to accomplish that for every single one, but for the most, we were. All right, so here's the application area changes for Adams. I'm sorry, East Cary Middle School. This is the new base attendance area here on the right-hand side. And you can see this area here in blue, they would apply to Lufkin. And then this area here would apply to Salem.
This is where East Cary applies to year-round now.
Yep. Then we have West Cary. And so now West Cary, the new base attendance area here, we have the area around the school into the south and west, they would apply to Salem. And then this northern section, which is also like the North Woods base attendance area, we're proposing that they calendar to Pine Hollow Middle School. There's easy access up to 540, and Pine Hollow is right over here. Okay?
Tell me, where's this location again?
In Cary.
This section right here. So this is the North Woods base attendance area. This is that 54, I believe, right there, heading out towards 540.
And it attends West Cary Middle School. If they want a multi-count, multi-track, you're proposing.
They can apply to Pine Hollow for just that section in blue.
Right. Okay.
The section in yellowish orange would apply to Salem.
Pine Hollow is over here.
Yeah, you might think immediately that's a really long way, but the infrastructure that's there in terms of how it's a whole heck of a lot easier to get from there than in places in Western.
We've actually used our software to use like timing how long it would be on a bus or in a car, and it's quicker to get to Pine Hollow from those locations than it is to get to Salem and go through town.
Again, this is our application.
This is for application areas, yes.
Calendar
So
application.
I'm going to point to the time. So let's go to questions, not comments.
All right.
From you, Flos.
So here is the proposed application area for Reedy Creek. All of Reedy Creek would apply to Lufkin Road Middle School. And then here's Dillard Drive. This goes along with the Swift Creek and Yates Mill recommendation. The green, I'm sorry. It's hard to kind of see here. But this area here would apply to, it's a sea foamish color. They would apply to Lufkin, and then this area here and this area out here would apply to, we'll have to fix that. They'll apply to North Garner. Okay, so the sections that would apply to Timber Drive are also applying to North Garner. The areas that apply to Adams and Oak Grove would apply to Lufkin.
So ours are green and a teal color. That's how it's.
Yeah, we got greater separation.
We can
See it on ours.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
All right, so Conn Elementary. So a couple of years ago, a previous board had approved a move for a base increase at Underwood Elementary. And due to capacity concerns, we had put off that move from time to time, and I'm proposing to put that move back on the table. So we're proposing that Conn send some of their base attendance area to Underwood.
Now, is the capacity shown here for Conn after their renovation?
It is? You think so?
Well, it's no change. It's 4:30 to 4:30.
Let me double check. I think it is because they're going to be going to a swing space during that year, during 1920. And so when they come back, we would probably project them as the capacity that they're using, but I'll double check that for you.
Because it goes to 84 and 21, 22. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll make sure to report it. So Turner?
I can tell you that Conn's capacity with their trailers will be close to what their renovated capacity will be.
So Turner Creek, so this is an attendance area, and I'm only looking at the section that's here downtown, okay? So they currently go from Turner Creek to Salem Middle School to Green Hope High School, okay? And these families reached out and asked for a more proximate school, and so possible areas where we have available seats for reassignment could be Bug Elementary or Conn, or Centennial Middle School, or Ligon Middle School, or Southeast Raleigh High School. So looking at it, I'm asking that we potentially put this off a recommendation until 2020 because we'd like to recommend Conn Centennial Southeast, which is a current feeder pattern. And since they're going to be going out to the swing space at
Spring Forest.
East
Millbrook area, I didn't want to have those students assigned and then send them even further away. So we're asking to maybe put that off for a year.
Is that approved this year, but they don't move for a year? Okay.
Yeah, we could do that. Okay.
I'm just
So
asking.
now the next two
That's a good
slides
question.
talk about Southeast Raleigh Elementary's base attendance area. And so Southeast Raleigh Elementary currently feeds to Daniels Middle School and Broughton High School. Okay? And so what I heard from several board members was that they wanted to ensure that Southeast Raleigh Elementary students went to Southeast Raleigh High School. And so in looking at that, we tried to find, okay, what's the best possible middle school to assign them to? And so Centennial came out to be as our final choice for two reasons. One, it's the same calendar. It's a modified calendar just as Southeast Raleigh High School, so it provides 6/12 calendar alignment for families who are in this base attendance area. And it also gives them Centennial feeds to Southeast Raleigh with their magnet program, so it gives them 6/12 magnet consistency. Okay? So we would be proposing that this area in the dark blue there, they go to Southeast Raleigh Elementary, Centennial Middle School, and Southeast Raleigh High School. Now, just something I wanted to throw out there. Since we're doing this move for Southeast Raleigh Elementary students, did we want to delay in moving the middle school and high school students to reduce the number of affected students? So we don't have to move those students today, but we can stagger this move over the next several years to provide some
Yeah, I think
consistency
that's,
for families.
yeah.
Let's move. I think we
Let's move?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so when we come back for draft 2, I will have that edited and make that. And so this kind of goes with it. This section here is part of that Southeast Raleigh Elementary, so I'll make those adjustments. But we did have another area down here by East Hargett Street. They go out to Sanderson High School. And so they were looking for a more proximate school, and so what we wanted to do is propose to assign them to Southeast Raleigh High School. Okay? Broughton High School. I have 2 slides for this, and I'll be very quick. What we have here is we're proposing that all of this area here that was previously green and hashed out be assigned to Athens Drive High School. It was previously assigned to Broughton, and it makes a little bit more sense when we look at this. So Trenton Point, West Ridge, Weldon Ridge, Trinity Farms, and Trenton Place, all of those neighborhoods are assigned to Athens Drive as a base high school. However, as you come around the corner here, the Lakes at Umstead, they are assigned to, and these streets here, they are assigned to Broughton. But the next closest house in Broughton is all the way over here that accesses up on this way. So all of this is all empty land, and so we're proposing that this parcel here and then the rest of this parcel going out here be assigned to Athens Drive. This will help maximize transportation efficiency.
Yeah, because most of that orange space you're showing is NC State land, so no one lives there.
Exactly.
So it looks very large, but it's really, as Glenn says, just that one little neighborhood. So thank you.
It's a big deal, that one little neighborhood.
So Salem Elementary, this is the bringing of a neighborhood back together. We had inadvertently split a neighborhood in the past, and so there is the Carolina Pines neighborhood down here. It's over by 401 South. There you go. This is 440 here. So coming down 401, there's Carolina Pines right there. It's currently assigned to Salem Elementary, Salem Middle, and Athens Drive High School. And so what we're proposing is to send those students, combine that neighborhood back with their original neighborhood, and it would now go to Penny Road, Apex Middle School, Apex High School. Okay?
That's the green.
That is the greenish color there. Yeah, that's showing the Penny Road base attendance area.
And otherwise, it was Salem, Apex.
Salem, Athens is what it was, and now we're proposing it to be Penny, Apex. All right? And again, that's just to clean up a neighborhood. So grandfathering. We are not proposing to make any changes from last year's grandfathering rules. So just to recap, elementary and middle school students in grades 5 or 8, they can request a grandfather. Their siblings will be able to grandfather as well. However, they will get to stay for 1 year only, and then they will be assigned back to their base. The only changes we're proposing for the grandfathering rules is that we would like to offer the grandfathering window earlier for families, and we think that's a win-win. Families will not have to wait several months to ask for the transfer back to their original school. And we will also be able to have a more accurate number of where students are located when we open our application periods. So that's why as soon as the board approves the final vote, we would like to take the next week or two to open up the grandfathering window for families. And so we will directly contact those families who are affected to let them know, here's the link, here's the time frame that you can do this. So that would be the only change to the grandfathering rules that we're proposing.
That's a long way.
Just to recap, the high school, existing to an existing school, students in 9th, 10th, and 11th. Currently, they will get to grandfather back, again, without transportation. From an existing school to a new school, since we're only opening or proposing to open 9 and 10, the 11th and 12th graders will stay at their current school. But the 9th and 10th graders and the rising 8th graders rising 9th graders can apply to the school where their 11th and 12th grade sibling is. Now, just to clarify, the students so if you have an 11th and 12th grader at Panther Creek, okay, they obviously can't go to Green Level, so they stay at Panther Creek. If you have a 9th grader that is at Green Level that would like to grandfather to go to Panther Creek with their older sibling, they will get a bus until that older sibling leaves. So since there's a bus coming in to pick up the 11th grader, they're going to come and take the 9th grader until that 11th grader is gone. Once they're gone, they will no longer get transportation. We wanted to just clarify that because we did have some issues where, a bus was coming in and possibly only taking one sibling and then the other sibling not giving them a bus.
They get to stay there just without transportation.
They can stay just without transportation after the older sibling leaves.
We will make that very clear.
Yes.
In the grandfathering description.
So I need to be taking notes on these banners. We need to remind us.
So here's our timeline. Today's draft 1, August 21st. We've opened up the website for feedback, okay? And we are going to be attending BAC meetings to get additional information. We will respond to families through FAQs and online. Then for draft 2 on September 18th, we'll continue to get online feedback. We will have public information sessions beginning the week of September 24th. We'll let families know when and where those are located, as well as continuing to do FAQs. Draft 3 would be October 16th. Staff would then schedule a public hearing for the board on October 30th, which is a special meeting. That's not your normal meeting time, where you can get your public feedback, and then you would have a final vote on November 20th. Okay? Again, here's the information for families for how to provide feedback. And then questions, comments. I know we're short on time. And then you have the addendum and the full policy. So I want to thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
And this is just the first conversation, not the last.
Yes, yes. Thank you for clarifying that. This is only draft 1. There is many opportunities for families to provide feedback, and we will bring those
and more as we do.
Yes.
And on our website, it will show when and where those BAC meetings and the community.
We will put all of that information out to the public.
Okay, and the community meetings aren't set yet, but the BACs have to be public.
And any family that could be considered for any move has been sent an email.
Yes, by tomorrow morning we'll have the final ones. The application ones gave us a little bit more trouble, but we will definitely have the application comments tomorrow.
Okay.
Everybody else has their email.
Everybody else has their email already.
Okay. Okay. Very good job.
Yes.
For everybody. Good job, you guys with public relations. That first email was just a nice heads up. The next one was
For the team lift.
the team lift. Team lift.
And he acts like he's I know, and I understood everything he said. I did too.
I mean, really.
Okay, you had something to do with the
I haven't let go of some of yet.
Don't.
I like your style. You like not too much yet.
No, don't. No, don't.
I'm just making sure that
All right.
I can get in here and make sure that
Mr. Anita and Dr. Howell.
Ready to go? Need a break?
you take somebody else to me with this.
I mean,
We won't get out
the
on
answer
time.
is no. We can't take one. We need one.
Moving along. What we want to do today, and we're going to move through it quickly. I think we should be able to get through it before the work session is over, with time to answer some questions. I want to re-review with you very briefly the significant changes that were made to the state schedule for last year that remain for the current year and the related impacts. Talked about a team that we put together that we shared with you that we would in looking at a long-term living principal compensation schedule. Look at what we're proposing for 2018, 19, and beyond, and then talk about next steps. So just a real quick review of what really started last year, significant changes. The schedule now is just based on ADM. It's not based on the level of the school. It's not based on the years of experience of the principal. So 2 principals in identical schools, 1 an entry-level principal, 1 a seasoned principal. All things considered, you'll be making the same compensation, size of staff not considered. Advanced degrees not considered. You will recall then 3 other items. They built in a performance component. And it did a look back, and they looked at the principal's performance, the best 2 out of 3 prior years, to determine if they were at a base compensation level, if they met, that should be exceeded, not expected. I apologize. Whether they had base performance, meaning they either didn't meet growth or they didn't have enough history, whether they met growth or whether they exceeded growth. Longevity was built into the schedule and was no longer earned separately. And the state said, we'll hold all principals harmless, but just for 1 year. Now, what we did last year was we said, well, based on board feedback, that was not supportive of the performance component. We structured the local supplement to basically not just mitigate, but eliminate the impact of the base met exceeded. Also last year, all principals received a 5% increase, and the 5% applied to everything except for their longevity pay. The state in their legislation for the current year did extend the hold harmless, and not just for this year, but my understanding is the legislation says the hold harmless will stay in place from the state. So again, we made some simple changes last year. We said we would put a committee in place to comprehensively look at the local supplement schedule, look at all aspects of principal compensation, and we've done that. And this was the team we assembled. Our goal was to get representation from all levels of schools, different calendars, as well as high-need schools. I'll point out that Felix Keys, who comes from Osro, this is Title I, he was also one of the individuals who was able to, even though I think his F&R was 85%, exceed growth. What should drive principal compensation? The team consensus was, and we met, I'll say at least 5, maybe 6 times beginning in the fall of last year through the spring. There was consensus that the size of the school matters, the level of the school matters, advanced degrees matter, magnet status and multi-track year-round status matter as differentiators, years of experience matter, and also an agreement was use of the local supplement to mitigate or eliminate the impact of the performance component. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Holland to get into what we've arrived at as our proposed schedule.
Good afternoon. So our proposed schedule, as Mr. New Year shared, did come through the committee and was reviewed with them. It also was shared with the Division of Principals and Assistant Principals, where we got input from them through this process and their HR subcommittee as well. So it was a broader group that expanded even beyond the committee members, so we did get more feedback. We have included in our proposed schedule a flat dollar amount for the magnet status, which previously was a 2% supplement, and multi-track year-round, which was 4%, as a flat dollar as well. We believe that that actually mirrors better the work that's required at the school and is not subject to where a principal comes in either with years of experience or where they might fall on the step otherwise, or the size of the school. Magnet work is magnet work, multi-track year-round is multi-track year-round. So all of those principals who serve in those schools will receive the same stipend versus it being a percentage of their base salary. Again, we are using...
Can I pause? And just a footnote on that. We ensured that those dollar thresholds, $203,000, no principal that was currently magnet or multi-track year-round will see less than they were receiving as a percentage of their salary, and many will actually receive more. The other benefit of going to a fixed dollar amount and treating it as a stipend as opposed to just rolling it into their total compensation is when we have to go through a transition and a principal at a multi-track year-round school becomes single-track, or they move to a traditional calendar, it's much easier to separate that out and make the change. Same thing for a principal going from a magnet school to a non-magnet school.
Mr. Sutton.
Quick, I don't just want to assume that I know. I think I have a sense, but can somebody talk a little bit about the duties, when thinking about the duties and responsibilities of a principal, what is different at both a magnet and a multi-track year-round that it makes sense to, that would be paid slightly more?
Go ahead. Well, let me start with the year-round. Basically, that year-round principal has no opportunity during a summer break to work with his or her staff to gear up for the next year. And based on my conversations with year-round principals, I think of one, Mr. Charles Langley. I remember visiting him shortly after I arrived here, and he said it's the toughest thing he's dealt with. School administrator is the year-round, managing the year-round schedule.
I think that the recognition for year-round is that because you don't really have breaks and you have that whole notion of a clopening when you're closing and opening all at the same time, this is just a recognition of the additional burden that puts on having to run school. I think there are significant duties associated with marketing and going out to other schools and the opportunities that they have to go seek applicants for their school and not just the base attendance area. And so that's where the additional percentage for magnet came from.
Well, I respect that we haven't done the high need or not. I wonder in the future, at least to be part of that conversation, we've got our different classes of magnets. I'm not sure that they all require, even as you've noted, Superintendent Moore, some of them have to recruit harder than others. But it strikes me that our highest needs magnets maybe should be seen differentially than some of the others. So I think probably not here, but wrapped into that ongoing work would probably be wise.
Well, and I think as they move through it, there's opportunity for what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So also in the proposal, we have adjusted the levels. If you're familiar with our prior salary schedules, we have an A through H that represent different sizes of the schools based on the number of instructional staff and instructional assistants. There's a separate scale for elementary, middle, and high. We have now created a new H, which represents our largest schools. Prior to this year, it capped out at 141 staff members, with nearly several schools reaching over 2,000. They have greater numbers of staff, so we have a new H that's 161 plus. So that's also, we've been able to do that as part of this. And again, this makes our salary schedules more predictable and clear. Principals will know from year to year what their salaries are going to be going forward. It's not going to be dependent on what the state's doing within their schedules.
So again, the local supplement is being used to totally remove the variability of the performance state component.
So going forward, our team did work together also with data and accountability to look at assessing and defining high needs for our schools, which goes to your point, Dr. Martin, and what some of those needs might be. We have several indicators that we've discussed. Title I, F&R numbers. If there are special education districted programs at those schools, there are obviously additional responsibilities there. Performance composites around student growth data, level 1 and 2 performance information. But the committee could not come to consensus, and we did not feel like we were prepared to make a recommendation without bringing some more of that back to the board for input as well before defining high needs for our schools and what the constructs might be around the salary schedule for those. So that'll be something we'll come back with in the future.
Continue to look at and adding a couple things that everyone on the committee, even the feedback from the division of principals, the equity piece was very important to them as a group and as a whole. And even the Title I representative spoke to the equity piece, and he would likely be identified as a high-need school. There were were even principals that said, well, just because our student population may not have a high F&R percent or housing additional special needs programs doesn't mean my kids and my parents don't have a different set of high needs. So there's a lot of work we have to do, and I think, this is representative of some of the things the board has talked about as well. Think back to the spring, I think it was in a student achievement committee meeting, how we resource high need schools and how do we define them. Right now we've got ESM. We did look, we looked very closely at the ESM rubric, at those, the methodology to see if that might provide basis. But again, there's so many different variables, being able to identify a subset of variables that is used to say, you're a high need school, you get a pay differential, then you're leaving other variables out. So work to be done.
So with our proposal, we will have 34 principals who on our new schedule.
Sorry, we have a hand. Sorry. I just need to interject this, that you were able to figure out that magnet schools, principals get more money, but yet some of them have to work harder because but they get something. So I am going to highly encourage you to look at high need schools, particularly Title I, because I think when you dig in and you look at the job description and the additional amount of work that's involved in reporting and in programming, and there's marketing involved when you're at Title I school, because you have to sell your school. So I'm just really driven right now that you go back to the table, and I'm okay with it not being there today, but I want to see something come back where we can adequately supplement our Title I principals.
I think what I'd say about that is because the magnet and the year-round supplements have historically been built into the schedules, there was a greater level of comfort and understanding, and actually those are easier to define, right? So I think when it came to the conversation about needs of a school and differentiating pay from that, that's a much broader arena in terms of how it's defined. So the group didn't want it to get in the way of moving this proposal forward and then continue some work.
And there's a concern, for example, the majority of our Title I schools are elementary. I do not believe that our high need schools are limited primarily to elementary. Right. They transcend into middle and high as well. And so again, what will be used to identify what a high need school is our challenge that we must look at.
I'm just encouraging you to continue
further work.
Mr. Fulcher?
Well, I was just going to add from a layperson standpoint, the number of beginning teachers creates a high need. The number of IEPs that you have to administer as the district representative consumes an enormous amount of time for principals. So, I mean, there are other factors beyond that can be considered in that whole mix.
And I'll just add one additional extension to that thought. Sometimes the additional support that best addresses that need, it may or may not be salary. It may be an additional assistant principal or something along those lines. So I think that's more of the work that needs to happen.
It's at least a 7-level chess set.
These dollar values are really, not, in the grand scheme of things, they're pittance.
Yes.
So some of these other things are probably way more important.
Yes.
But dollar values does say they were paying attention.
That's right.
So I think it's a both and, but absolutely.
So in our current proposal, there are 34 principals who will receive less than an overall 2% increase. You'll recall that all central office administrator and classified employees received a 2% increase this year, or locally were 2% or $1,000, whichever was greater for our classified employees. So we are recommending in our proposal that our principals who are receiving less than 2% be eligible for up to 2% as well, and there's some additional funding that's required there so that they are comparable to what central office administrators are receiving for this year. And we That is one of our proposals. I also feel like I need to note that every principal, if you know the salary schedule that the state has, we have verified that all of our principals will receive on our proposed scales, which we have for you, will receive at least what the state has for them, because the state did increase their scale this year, and they have made verbal commitments to continue to increase the principal schedules going forward. But they'll all receive at least what the state is guaranteed based on the schedule. I've personally checked all of them, in fact. And, they're all making more than what the minimum state requirements are, I'm happy to say, so that's great for us, but I just wanted you to know that as well.
And going forward, I mean, if the principal's in the exceeds category, that the key would be they would need to get at least the ADM and their state exceeds. So this will always have to incorporate that.
So the next few slides are just the draft proposed schedules, and I'll highlight one example on elementary that also is mirrored in middle and high. In our prior scales, not these that you're seeing, looking just at level D, which is where many of our elementary schools fall because of the size of their with ADM. Prior to this proposal, D began at 69,105. You can see here that D is beginning at 75,306. So there is an increase there. H began, our old H began at 69,626, and our new H begins at 81,243. So certainly there's some recognition for the size of the school that our principals are managing. Prior also, our scales maxed it out at step 30. We have condensed them at the bottom, and it's now capping at 35. But D35 prior was 108,349, and our new D35 is 122,346. So our principals are seeing greater gains as they're gaining experience as well. And that is true across middle and then high school as well.
And Marcy, just to clarify those numbers where you're comparing the current proposed schedule to a prior number, those were last year's numbers?
Those were scales that were used last year.
Okay.
Thanks, that's good.
Marcy, can you clarify? So earlier in the presentation, there was something about including years of teaching as part of years of experience.
Yes.
This says license years.
It's the same
thing?
Same thing.
Okay. I just want to clarify. Yeah.
So the license years and the years of teaching, is the principal salary is based on the total number of years on the teaching license. So that incorporates everything that they have on their teaching license.
So
teaching license, not an administrative license.
The first-year principal that taught for 10 years was
So it says 11.
10.
10.
Or 10. Okay.
Or one that had taught for 25 years.
Yes.
No, I just wanted to clarify that I understood where the drifts were.
So, sort of next steps. Glad to answer any questions or any discussion, any direction from the board to make changes to what was proposed. If there are recommendations for change, we will bring those back. If they're not, our target would be to bring this back to the board, take action at your next meeting on September 4th. And just to give the board an update on where we stand with the overall salary changes for all employees for the current school year. Our goal is to have the new rates become effective for all employees, including school administrators, certified staff, non-certified staff, centrally based staff on the September payroll. And then for the retroactive component that takes them back to July 1st, ideally we'll get that done in September, but worst case in October. A couple of things that our first goal was actually for everyone except principals was August, but we were waiting on DPI to do some things that they were not able to come through with, so that pushed it to September. In addition, we've had to make some changes by taking the certified staff percentage supplement to a fixed dollar supplement. We've had to do some programming changes, and we want to go through an abundance of caution and testing that to ensure it's right. But those are our target time frames.
So when you say bring it back September 4th, does that come back to another work session? Because we just saw this morning, right? We just got the documents. So how will we discuss it again? At the full board meeting?
Okay.
It's however the board chooses.
Okay. Because we might want to discuss some pieces. And I didn't know whether you wanted us to do that individually with you as the chair or with Mr. Neal.
No, there's no expectation that these should be discussed individually, so
we won't. So since I just saw it this morning, and we're talking about it now, if we had to need any more discussion, just maybe ask that to be at a little bit of the work session.
If you have other questions, some people did send in feedback. So.
Okay.
Again, I want to point out it's largely based on what was in place for 17-18. Not really significant changes to that.
Richard, give us a heads up before the executive committee meeting when we set the agenda.
So we'll
if
add it.
I mean, if it's just normal, we could talk about it at the board table. But if you'd like it as a work session, just as long as we know before.
Okay, I would like to know.
As long as we know, we can put it on there.
That's a quick question. Yes. The number of employees does it include the child nutrition staff, or what is it, just teachers and
all licensed staff?
All licensed staff.
And instructional assistants, so your special education TAs and your regular education TAs.
CNS and bus drivers are out.
That's correct.
Just want clarification. Thank you.
So yes, I did receive an email from a board member this morning. A lot of questions. Feel free to email any questions. We'll make sure that the entire board is aware of it.
Okay.
Last. Yes. So you'll recall last year, the General Assembly approved 2 different types of performance bonuses for principals that were paid in October. The 2 different kinds last year had to do with where they sat in the top 50% of performance in the state and the percentages there. And then the other was if they exceeded growth in 16-17 from not exceeding growth in 15-16. And their schools were certain grade levels, A through F, how the state grades them. So there's only one bonus this year. And here is the breakdown. It is just based on the top 50% of the state, broken down within those percentages. And it is doubled if a school is a D or F. Just some data, we had 52 principals who received a bonus last year, ranging anywhere from $1,000 to $9,000. We had 5 who received a bonus 1 and a bonus 2, so 47 who received just in the level 1 of bonus in the top 50%. So that speaks to the good work that our principals are doing, given that they're 50 of them or more in the top 50% of the state. So we're expecting similar numbers this year. The state actually provides this data for us to then validate. Mr. Fletcher.
So the growth, do you know the growth formula, what's included in the growth calculation?
I don't off the top of my head, but I know that it's the state provides that when they give us the
well, I mean,
data.
I'm glad it's growth.
Yes.
And not just not performance.
Correct.
It is interesting that it's different from how we grade schools. So the school's graded based on aggregate performance, but the bonus is based on having achieved growth against that performance. So if you're an A school, it's going to be harder for you to do the growth, I believe, which is an interesting juxtaposition.
Well, and if I can comment, get back to the conversation the board had, I guess a year ago, as we were looking at the performance component in the state schedule, and I remember Dr. Martin did
Could you speak up just a little more, please, Dave?
I'm sorry. I recall Dr. Martin did a statistical analysis showing the distribution, theoretically, by looking at growth as opposed to performance, it should put everyone on an even playing field as far as their ability to meet or exceed growth. But the data that Dr. Martin provided showed that perhaps not so much a level playing field.
So it'll be interesting.
Well, I mean, it's always intriguing, right? We talk about how the standardized tests, the end of grade tests, whatever, do such a poor job of evaluation, which they do. and then we use them.
Which just further confuses
Everybody. Yeah.
Any other questions, comments, Phil?
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate the staff work.
And all the work that you're going to continue to do to work all these details out for both our principals and our non-certified, given where the state leads us.
Taking a break.
Yeah, we got 14 minutes.
Whoa, we did well.
I know. From the questions, I think it go on. But maybe you all have your questions answered ahead of time. So, talk to them. We're good. Thank you. Yep. Yeah, everybody's got some questions. That's how I knew. Okay. Thank you.
Kevin Ellis texted me.